How many of you would love to hear from some very current success students of the Prosperity Group, kind of hear from them? Welcome both of them to the stage, and I want to hear a multi-millionaire's huge round of applause.
Yeah, so I'm going to start out first, and then before you guys go into the case study, okay? Because the reason why I asked Cynthia and Ron to come up to share with you guys today, last week, we had our mastermind group, and they came up to me and showed me this sheet here that lists out all the properties that they closed on in the past 10 months that they've been with us. And I was like, wow, pretty impressive, right? And so it's like, great, I want you guys to share this with others to get you guys inspired and see what's possible for you. Okay? As you see here, as sexy and beautiful as they are, right? They are normal people just like you and I. If you pinch them, I think they might hurt. They might get hurt too, right? And so I just want to run through these numbers real quick, and so here's the deals that they've closed on in the last 10 months. There's 22 deals, and 21 of them, the average profit per deal is $11,600. Those are the single-family home deals. Okay, so if you multiply that up, that's $255,000 plus like cash in the pocket, right? On a single-family home deal. And then one deal that they closed on is a commercial deal, and that one was $80,000 of profit, wholesale fee. Pretty nice, right? That's for a total of $345,000. Give them a big hand, y'all! And they still have 2 more months to go. So I said they should kick in another $150,000 to make it even $500,000, right?
Those are in the pipe.
Nice! Okay. So what they have in the pipeline right now is another $106,000.
Wow.
Wow. So, but you still short 49 more thousand.
Exactly.
to hit $500,000 total for the year.
We're still marketing.
Yeah, so you better go to work in the next 2 months. Great job. Yeah, and so these are real properties. Can you just mention something about these deals? I assume they range everywhere from 2 bedrooms to 3 to. What are they like?
Most of them are 3-bedroom homes, single-family homes. All of them we got, for the exception of the commercial building, but all of them we got from yellow cards, sending out mailers through the marketing. That's why the marketing is so important. We got the buyers. Most of the sellers we got through My House Deals. The buyers we got from My House Deals. Some of them we partner with the Prosperity Group, who has an awesome buyers list. So several of the deals, when we felt we were stuck, we got with them. They blasted it out, and we sold it, very quickly. The houses were in different stages of repair or disrepair. It doesn't matter. No matter what kind of condition, you can sell a house. One of them was a duplex, which was a nice deal. But the average is $11,600 per deal. Our average money per month is about $34,500 a month. Just doing it, and we just started. We didn't know how to do it.
How much a month again?
$34,500.
Nice.
Wow.
How many of you guys want that kind of a job? That pays you that kind of money, right? This is even better than a job. It's your own business. It's your own retirement.
Right. And I keep telling Ron that I am going to report him to HR for the way he comes dressed to the office. I mean,
She's only telling half of the side of the story. So he just has a nightgown on. So we're still
Well, at
making
least I have a nightgown on.
Yeah, that's right.
Too much information.
It's a fun business, and we work real well together.
Right, awesome. So I'm gonna, with that, let you guys start. So everybody give me a big hand again.
So, I'm Cynthia, this is Ron, and we're going to go over the case studies. We have 3 case studies. One is a rental, the first house that we bought. The second is a wholesale deal, which is most of what we do. And then the third is a commercial deal. And I'll let Ron go through the explanation.
Well, good afternoon. In real estate, there's a saying, real estate is ideal. And at the end of the presentation, I'll break that down for what that means as far as ideal. It's important to continuously get education, and it's good, and that's what you guys are doing. Just a quick overview. As I mentioned, I'm a retired Coast Guard. I was in corporate for over 14 years, got tired of it. I was traveling over 100,000 miles a year, large contracts up in Dallas, and just decided one day, I've had enough of this. So we've been doing this full time, and I love it. It's a great business. It's really a people business. In every house or every commercial property, it's more than just selling and making the dollars. People have some type of situation going on or whatever that they need to push that property and move to get out of it for whatever reason. So with that, the first one we had was 9317 Fairlane. That's a rental. We got that by yellow card mailing, and the purchase price, we got it for $9,000.
Well, let me tell y'all, this was like one of my first deals. And when we went, it's a nice house, as you can see. It's a brick house, really nice. And I asked her how much did she want. And I'm new to this. And she said, well, if I can get $10,000. And I said, well, I think I can do 9. She said, okay. So that's how we got that for 9.
And the property needed some work, of course. So the ARV after repair value is $55,000. The repairs was around $6,000, a little bit more than that. We had to do some foundation issues, take care of that, and then refinish the floors, paint, and did a rental update and for the bathroom and kitchen. We had it rented actually before we completed the renovation, so we put a sign out in the yard for rent. We had it rented for $800 a month. So it's $9,600 a year income, so the return on investment is over 64%. There's no 401k or anything that can bring you that kind of return. I'm an avid believer in, even though whether you do wholesale, wholetailing, flipping, whatever, I'm an avid believer in building your portfolio up and having at least a minimum of 10 houses, so you have that passive income. You want to have 20 or 50. Our ultimate goal is 100. 50 houses at $800 a month. That's well over $488,000 gross a year. So it just depends on what you're comfortable with. So if we would have sold it wholesale, we would have made $39,000. So the investment payoff is within 19 months. So from $9,000 plus the $6,000 that we added into it, in 19 months we'll get our return. But then, of course, each year that just keeps adding on and on. And the great thing about the rental portfolio is that you can pass it on to your kids, because the whole real estate deal is basically changing your lifestyle where you become the bank. And you can be on the beach in Cancun or whatever in the beginning of the month. I love the beginning of the month because we just check the accounts and make sure that the rent's there. Some people say, oh, I don't even want to deal with the phone calls on the toilets. They've got processes in place where people take those calls, they'll do all that for you, and everybody needs to make some kind of money. All I want to do is I want to see that money in the bank in the beginning of the month. This is another deal we had. It was actually a duplex, 5102 and 5104 Beaver Hill. And we go all over Houston. Cynthia and I were blessed last month, actually May and June, for myhousedeals.com. We were the #1 wholesalers in Houston. The key is, I believe, is just being teachable and continuously wanting to learn. On this particular deal, again, it's a yellow card mailer. We got it under contract for $97,000. We posted it on myhousedeals.com for $121,000. The ARV is $143,000. We sold it in 14 days for $110,000. Our assignment was $13,000. This is a real interesting one because the guy that sold it to us had several houses. He was an old-time realtor, but he didn't understand about wholesaling. didn't know what the deal was. And this is why it's very important. I believe in always, always, always do a blind closing. In other words, you know, when you get a contract and then you resell, that the person that sold it doesn't really see how much you're making. In this particular case, we made $13,000, he got $8,000. Sometimes people get a little touchy with that, and so from that deal, we learned to always do blind closing.
And we sold it so fast, he didn't know what happened. We got I'll never forget, we got the contract on my birthday, which is February the 7th. We found the buyer the next week on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, and then we sold the following week on February the 28th. So everything was done within 14 days.
The next one is the commercial property. I got this one from the lady we picked up from a mailer again. She had a property. We picked it up for $18,000, did some rehab, and turned around and sold it for $22,000. And she had asked me, Ron, do you sell commercial property? I said, sure. I didn't know anything about selling commercial property. But I went in there with confidence and, of course, got with my mentors, and they started helping me along. And lo and behold, we got the contract. This was about a 6-month deal. There was legal issues going on. We had to hire a lawyer. We had to do surveys. The lady had 3 other properties connected. We had a guy that came in and said he had a contract on it, wanted to sue us. Very important to have a good legal team established, that type of thing. And to make a long story short, all of that was bogus. The lady was happy because she got what she wanted. We listed it for $300,000 on myhousedeals.com and LoopNet. And the buyer we got was a realtor, and it was from LoopNet, so we sold it.
The buyer was brought to us from a realtor.
And so we sold it for $280,000 in 6 months, so it was an $80,000 assignment. Now keep in mind also, when you start getting these large cash deals, $70,000, $50,000, $10,000, $15,000, whatever, of course you always want to make sure to take out your 30% on the taxes, otherwise you get hit big time at the end. But like I said, I can't say enough that it's really important to build that rental portfolio, to have that passive income. You can make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000. There's some people in the business that are making over $90,000 to $100,000 a month on rental income. That's gross, but of course comes out of that is your maintenance fees and your taxes and all that, but not a bad income. Our typical day, sometimes we start at 7:30 in the morning, some days we start at 8 o'clock, we may go as late as 12:30 or 1 o'clock, other days we go until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's it. So it's really how bad as you want to, what you want to put into it. The way I look at it is if I could have put as much time that I did for a company that didn't pay me for what I felt I was worth, now I can really put this into good use. And no matter what your background is, education, whatever, you can really do very well in this business. And like I said, I love it because it's a people business. It's more than just a dollar signs. And every house has a story. Every house has a situation. So.
I think one of the important points here is that I had rental property. I had a few rental properties before I started. I had a personal home that I had a lot of equity in that I sold. And when I sold that, I was able to put down payment on a small apartment complex. And then I talked to a friend who lived next door to where I grew up and asked her to sell me her house for $20,000 and owner financing. So I had that. And then I got another one like that. So I had about, 3 properties. Nothing like we have now. The game changed when I started to come into classes like this and meeting people who were doing these big deals and not so big deals, but they were doing real estate and making money at it, and I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't have the money to waste to try to learn. I needed to know exactly what to do. And when I came to the Prosperity Group, they taught us how to do it. And it's really simple. If you follow the instructions and if you're teachable, you can do this business very well. When they tell you to send the mailers out, send the mailers out, because that's where the lifeblood of this business is. And if you get stuck, you check back with your mentors and ask them, how can I get out of this situation? But the game changed for us. I've owned real estate ever since I was in my 20s, when I bought my first homes. First home at 20 years old, second home at 25 years old. But how many homes did we buy last year? Bought a lot.
It's
We
around
have about 20 properties
20.
now.
Yeah, last year I think we bought over 80.
And when Ron retired or left his job, when he left, he walked out of corporate because he just had enough. And even with that, we were able to buy more homes than we had when he had his six-figure job with corporate. So it's all because of the information that we learned from the group and from what they've shared with us openly of how to do it. And then Ron had that was his ideal.
Yeah, this was a great, again, I believe in education. I got this from a guy that's been in the business since 1968, named Tim Holloway out of California. He says that real estate is ideal. I stands for income, D is for depreciation, E is for equity, and A is for appreciation, and L is for leverage, which gives you infinity. Again, I can't say enough about building that portfolio, no matter whether you're doing wholesaling or wholetailing or flipping or what have you. Try to get at least 10 homes that you can add into your portfolio. So our goal is, the ultimate goal is 100. We're getting close toward 50. And there was a guy that was here in Houston, an older gentleman, I think he's passed. They call him the rent man. He had over 100 houses. So if you're doing an average of 800, you're looking at who's making between 90 and 100,000 per month on all those properties. Of course, again, that's gross. You know, of course, you don't take out the taxes and so forth, and maintenance. But my point being is that passive income. You know, doctors, lawyers, they only make money when they go in, they present a case, or they're doing an operation. Real estate, when you're doing rentals, you're getting the monthly rent every month, and you can check that account wherever you're at anywhere in the world. And that's what I love about this business. And you meet a lot of interesting people. I met a guy the other day that was a retired Continental 777 pilot. So people come from all walks of life. Some people are getting tired of corporate and they just want to do something different or transition. And the great thing about this business, you can still work in corporate and still do this part-time for you to eventually do your full-time business. The last thing I'll say is that I had converted all my money from the 401k, and a lot of us had took a hard hit some time ago. I took a hard hit, and I started looking at self-directed. And self-directed, is everybody familiar with self-directed IRAs? Yeah, which is a great thing, because that way you can use your money to go purchase properties, and that's what I did. As soon as I left corporate, I went ahead and bought a couple of properties. I was able to do some renovations with that money. Now I'm getting that money and putting it back into different accounts. So the great thing about the Prosperity Group is that whenever you have a issue or you're stuck on something, hey, does anybody got a good plumber, or what about surveys, or whatever the case may be, you just put out an email to the group, and you get that, and then that's how you start your list, whether it's a buyer's list or whether it's a skill level list or surveyors or whatever. And like I said, I just can't say enough about educating when you pour into yourself. And this one guy that I learned this from, he takes every morning, he takes an hour and does study time. And so it's important that you can learn something new every day. And of course, there's some things that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, especially when people are successful. This is a day at the office about a month ago. It was 18 of us investors, and we just had a great time. We went out 60 miles, chartered a boat, and bought back about 1,000 pounds of fish, redfish, and king mackerel, and everything else. And it was funny because guys were still out there on their cells, cutting deals or talking to the contractors or whatever. It was just a great time, and you can just really have a good quality of life when you're in real estate. It's doable. You have to be persistent. You have to be dedicated. You're going to get the ones that, please don't call me again. Please don't email me. I'm tired of these cars. Are you tracking me? This kind of stuff. You got to have a flexible personality. And but I can't say enough about it. I love it. Would never go back to corporate. And it's just a great job. And like I said, I can't say enough.
The great thing about this is that it's simple. It's not complicated. And you can catch on to the concept very easily. Yesterday, I got a phone call from my sister who lives in Washington, D.C. And she's an investor. She's one of our buyers. And she has bought a lot of properties from us. But she called me yesterday and she said, I've got enough right now. She bought like 15 houses this year. And she said, I don't want to do anymore until I've got a few projects that I need you all to renovate and get going for me. And she said, I'm not going to do any more this year. Because her goal is also 50 houses. So she said she'll start again next year. Well, I got a call about an hour later. She said, Cynthia, your nephew, Dallas, who's 10 years old, went on My House Deals and he found a house that he wants to buy. Now, this little boy, my nephew, plays Monopoly and he beats everybody at Monopoly. And he really, really wants to get into investing. And he's asked his mother to buy him a house and to lend him the money to get this house. So he found a house on My House Deals for $25,000 and it needs no repairs. I said, how did we miss that one? But anyway, he knows how to go on My House Deals. He knows how to search. It's really simple. He goes and searches. And so they called Trey Wise, who had it listed with Homevestors. And so they're going to work out some kind of deal with little Dallas that's 10 years old.
And he's so smart. This guy, when his mom came in, we were showing her different properties. We went to one area and there was a guy that had a Bentley. And he said, why is this guy living here? That Bentley costs more than that house. So here's a 10-year-old that gets that concept. So, he's teachable. And again, it's just a great market. There's a lot out there.
Questions and answers?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
With that, that's the end of our presentation, and it's Q&A since the boss told me.
Not having done anything in real estate ever, the impact on your life, going from the type of jobs you used to have to what you do now, just sort of 7:30 to 12 in the day, what exactly are you doing?
Well, a lot of it is dictated by the phone calls. When we do out a mailer and people call us, I always answer the phone. You can, if you're still working, you can get an answering service to answer the phone calls for you, and they'll forward you the emails as to the person's name, the address of the property, and so on. Once we get the phone calls, if someone wants us to come out that day, or we try to get an appointment as soon as possible. We've also learned that we don't go out every day. We set certain days and certain times that we go out, so we're not all over the place all the time. So we do that. We check up with the title company if we have any properties that are, in title, making sure that everything is going smooth. We check with our contractors if we have any works going. But it's mainly dictated by the phone calls that we get.
But it does help to be organized. I come from an engineering background, so I'm really linear. Cynthia's she's an artist. She's all over the place, so we're still working on that. But so being structured is very important as well, and time
The
management.
deal's closed. Anyway.
So I try to plan out my day the day before, and then like Cynthia says, sometimes the phone calls dictate it. But there's a lot of follow up with mortgage companies and so.
This is what I use. It's real simple. I know there are a lot of different ways that you can track your calls, but I just use a message pad. This way I can check back and see if there are any that I missed or any people that I left out or someone I needed to follow up on. But this is what I use to take the messages as they come in. Like here's Mr. James, Dreyfus Street, for $22,000 that Ron actually got for
Right. Some people use software, and that's great, especially if you have a large team that you want to plug in. So, yes, sir.
Got a question over here.
Oh, yeah. About the self-directed IRAs, you're required to then use a non-recourse lender. Do you find them easily? Because they seem hard to get. Like,
as far as
yeah, because the IRS rules dictate that you need a non-recourse lender alone if you use self-directed.
I'm not an expert in self-directed. They do have like Quest and others, and I know that Prosperity will probably go over that. I know that on the self-directed, you can utilize that money, your money, to purchase a property and or to do renovations.
But if you use it just for a down payment and you still need a loan, then the kind of loan you get has to be that type. And it's hard to.
Non-recourse loan, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
If you use your IRA, there are certain lenders, they make non-recourse loans to IRAs, yes. But he's doing it with his own funds.
I'm doing it with my own funds, and then some are owner finance, so I just plop down $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah, he's not using loans,
So I'm not
he has
using
money
loans.
in there.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
On your $9,000 deal, I mean, there's so much profit in that deal. I was just wondering what made you decide to keep it as a rental versus just cashing right out?
Because we can get $10,000 a year forever.
Yeah, it's just, as you're building up your portfolio, the great thing is like Tim had told us a while back ago, when we're ready to sell, then you sell. He says, well, no, then you do owner finance. So you do owner finance, and you're not taking the phone calls, and here you're still getting that income coming in. Like I said, I'm just an avid believer on what we do is we do some flips, we do some rehabs, but we're also building up our portfolio as well. So on those ones that are like $9,000 and there's not much for repairs, I'm gonna add that to the portfolio.
Go ahead.
In one of the deals, you said in order to hide your assignment fee and you want to do a blind closing, are you meaning double closing? What's a blind closing? Define it.
A blind closing is that the seller doesn't see what your assignment is. They just, see their part of the contract or of the HUD. They don't see what you sold it for. A double closing is that the seller doesn't see, the buyer doesn't see what you bought it for, and the seller doesn't see what you sold it for.
So these different houses.
Two separate.
Two separate HUDs. So, the bottom line is, so like the lady says, she wanted $200,000 for her property. She got $200,000, but we bumped it up the price to $300,000.
So she didn't
So
see
she got her money. So
You
she got
make
her
that
money.
request?
That's right.
what?
So your title company that you work with, you specifically tell them that's how you
Yes,
want it done?
and that's very important because we messed up a deal when we first started the Beaver Hill. I asked the title company, I said, I think I should do a blind closing. She said, well, he's a realtor, he's gonna ask anyway. So she did it open and he was very upset and it messed up future business because, he only got $8,000, we got $13,000.
People get pretty funny on the money, whether it's
Yes.
$5,000, $3,000,
So-
$6,000.
When you request for a blind closing with the title company, are you totally in control of that? What if the buyer has some real estate knowledge and say, hey, I want to see what the seller is giving?
The buyer will know that. When you
Okay,
do
the
an
buyer will.
assignment, the buyer will know, but the seller will not know.
Okay.
If you do just a blind, you have a question.
Yeah, and do you do your own property management or you have somebody do it for you?
My son does it for me.
But yeah, pretty soon we'll get to the point where we're going to let him handle some of it, and then we're going to go to get some other folks to handle it, because it just gets too much. And then, when we have family gatherings, he wants to talk about the business.
Any more questions?
I think that's all the time that we have. One last
On
question.
your commercial deals that you're wholesaling, may take longer, how much time do you write your contracts?
It's a good question. One thing I've learned is to try to take about 30 to 60 days, and then let people know that a lot of times it takes a little bit longer because we're trying to get wholesale, cash buyers, but a lot of times we may not have somebody that has the funding, so it may take a little bit longer. And then we just kind of keep touch bases with them as well. That's the key, is the communication. I think what some people make a mistake of doing and not communicate with the people. They get the contract and they run off. The key is once a week, and that's the other thing when you were asking earlier, what else? That's the other follow-up that you do. Hey, just call in and see how things are going, let you know this is where we're at. I've showed it a couple times, had some low-ball offers, but that's pretty much it.
Sorry, last question real quick. So how many of your deals that you closed were like from follow-ups and how many were from just real hot leads that just happened within the month?
We've been so busy. Most of our deals are just from call, not from follow-up, but from people that have called that wanted us to come out. If we had followed up as well, it would have been more than that.
Wow.
That's just for people calling.
So so that 155,000 we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
totally be doable.
Yeah.
If you guys just follow up on your leads.
On that message pad, if I had gone back and followed up to see some people that may have slipped through the cracks.
So I'm gonna hold you guys accountable to follow up so you can hit the $500,000.
We're gonna hit the 500,000.
All right. So you have all these. Look
Yes.
at all of them. You have all these eyes
Yeah.
holding you accountable to hit your 500,000.
We're almost there.
We're almost
Awesome.
there.
Good
Okay,
job.
thank you so much.
Now, real quick before we let you go, can you share with them what you shared with me last week about what you came up to me and said? Do you remember what you
Yes. The thing that has changed our life, totally transformed our life. When we first started, we sold our house in September of last year. And so we've been living in an apartment. We had a house built under construction. And when they finished building it, the neighborhood had changed. I don't know if the neighborhood had changed or if we had changed. But we saw those were the neighbors that we had thought we had moved from, and here they were across the street. We were on the lake, beautiful house, but the people across the street had bought years earlier, and it was a lesser house. Ours was going to be the most expensive in the neighborhood, but they had trucks out there. They weren't using their garage, and you know, we park our car in the garage. We like a nice yard. Anyway, since we've been in the Prosperity Group, we've been able to buy, we got out of that other contract, but we've been able to buy a home in a multi-million-dollar home neighborhood. And before, this time last year, we wouldn't have even been looking in that neighborhood. But because of the money that we made and we can see how we can continue, it's not like a one-time thing. We know that with what we're doing, we're going to be able to pay this house that we have now in this multi-million-dollar neighborhood. We'll be able to pay that off in 2 or 3 years. That's our goal. That's
All right, thank you so much, Bob. Yes, awesome. Thank you, y'all.